Father Joseph here. In this ongoing trauma that is coronavirus, we find ourselves unsure what to do, how to react, and whether what we feel is normal. Unlike a sudden catastrophe, where the disaster occurs and then we can start working on recovery and healing, this pandemic is a lengthy experience with no real end in sight. And our day-to-day experiences strive for some sense of normalcy in the midst of something that is not normal. Taking care of ourselves and others is made more difficult by the fact that we are all experiencing this trauma at the same time. We want to care for others, and we also need to be cared for. We have less energy and focus than usual. We are grieving, scared, and unsure. We may also be frustrated or feel powerless. This is all overwhelming. One of the cardinal rules for any form of caregiving or helping is being aware of our own needs and setting reasonable expectations and limits on what we can do. We cannot do the same amount of activity with less energy. We must be careful of our own needs lest we burn out. In that sage advice of the pre-flight safety information, put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others. Easier said than done. It can be hard to articulate what our needs are in the midst of a crisis like this one. We may have a steady source of income, a roof over our heads, and food in the fridge. We might have friends and family who give us social interaction, and we may even have employment that does not put our health at risk. Even someone in that very fortunate position may feel a sense of unease and fear during this time. Caring for mental health during this pandemic is essential. Caring for mental health now will help us adapt and heal and succeed in the long term. Mental health is critical for our well-being. Mental health professionals have identified 5 essential elements that help build well-being in the aftermath of disasters. I take this list from an article for the journal Psychiatry entitled 5 Essential Elements of Immediate and Midterm Mass Trauma Intervention, Empirical Evidence. These 5 essential elements are a sense of safety, calming, a sense of self and community efficacy, connectedness, hope. I will speak to these in turn and help you think of ways you might consider how you could use them in good self-care and in caring for others. As an Episcopal priest, as a pastoral caregiver, as a Christian, as a human being, I want us all to have the tools to help each other and ourselves during this pandemic. I'm not a clinical mental health professional, but by listening to the research and insights of scientific professionals, there are still things we can all do to foster good mental health during this crisis. One, a sense of safety. We need a sense of safety in our daily lives. We need to feel that we are not in immediate danger. In this pandemic, this is difficult because the sense of danger is not visible. We can't see the virus, and it can take a while from exposure to developing symptoms, if we develop symptoms at all, and we can still be spreading it to others. It is hard to feel a sense of safety when we don't know if we have the disease. We need to make sure that our sense of safety is realistic, not overly fearful at every turn, and not glibly ignoring it and pretending the virus isn't a threat, but in the middle, by taking care to do physical distancing, wearing a mask, and limiting trips or outings into public to what is only sensible and necessary. By doing these things, we can increase our sense of safety. How else might you foster a sense of safety at home for yourself? Two, calming. We need calming techniques in our lives. We are already bombarded in our daily lives with information and news. And now we are even more unsettled by seeing cases continue to climb and by seeing people not heeding the sensible and practical advice for helping to slow and stop the spread. One simple technique is breathing. Make sure that you exhale for longer than you inhale, though. For example, you might breathe slowly in for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 5 or 6 seconds, and let your lungs empty. As a Christian, I also believe a healthy prayer life is good for a sense of calm. Spending time with God, who loves us, allows us to express everything in our hearts and to abide in God. Take it slow. Take time each day or multiple times a day to be quiet and let your mind, body, and heart rest and simply be. What other things can you do to encourage a sense of calm in the midst of all these things? Three, a sense of self and community efficacy. In times of crisis, we need to believe that our efforts are working. We need to feel that what we do and what our community is doing is having a positive impact. This is challenging when we see numbers continue to climb. We might feel that we aren't doing enough or that it's not good enough. But masks, washing hands, physical distancing really do work. Given that the virus can be asymptomatic, it's good knowing that I can take simple, small steps to reduce my risk of passing it on to others if I'm an asymptomatic carrier. No matter our abilities, we can all do small things that have an important impact. We can also think about all the things we do to make the world a better place. Public art on sidewalks, making our gardens and yards beautiful places for friends and passersby, or working for justice in the world are all helpful things we can do at this time. What are other things you can do, small or big, to have a positive impact on your life and the world around you? Four, connectedness. This one is probably the hardest to fulfill at this time. We are social creatures, even us introverts. We want to be connected to others. At this point, we may find that online connectedness is not enough. We're not just social creatures, we're physical creatures. We want to be around others, to be with them. We can supplement our online interactions with other kinds of interactions, though. Maybe this is the time to get a stack of postcards and just say hi to friends and family far and near. The recipient will get a piece of paper that you wrote on and you touched and you are showing love with, but without the risk of being in person. We get this satisfaction of sending something physical to someone we care about, and maybe that will inspire them to write us back. Don't be afraid to make your needs known to others. In this pandemic, we might feel like we have a lot of time, but we might not have the energy to do anything. Other people may be giving you space so as not to burden you. So ask. Let them know. Let them know you'd like to talk on the phone or send them a text or a note. People do care about you. Let them know how they can help. Spiritual connections can help too. As a church community, we are praying online together, and this helps us to feel connected to each other and to God. Knowing we are not alone gives us strength and courage in this trying time. What other ways can you encourage connections to other people at this time? How might you ask others to spend time with you? 5. Hope. We are definitely standing in need of hope these days. With no end in sight, it feels like we'll never be able to do the things we wanted to do. But we need hope. Hope is not some fluffy, non-essential emotion that everything is going to be wonderful. Hope is not a naive looking for silver linings. Hope is a belief that the future can turn out okay. Start by paying attention to how you are thinking and feeling. Watch for negative talk. Watch for catastrophizing, that things will never be okay. Find instead things to be grateful for. Pay attention to things that bring you hope and joy. Think of some of the things that we've experienced. Early on in this pandemic, we all marveled at the reduction in pollution. That gave us all hope that we could address pollution and climate change, and look at the hope that people have that we can really finally address issues of systemic racism in this country. There is a cause for hope, too. Even in the midst of a scary and seemingly endless pandemic, we human beings can come together, be strong and resilient, and bring good to the world. Even when there is little that we can do in the day-to-day, there is a lot we can do in our surroundings. There is cause for hope. And there's more to hope than a can-do attitude. As a Christian, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about hope in the religious sense. Christianity has never promised an easy life. Our Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, after all. But we also say that God is with us in the midst of our pain, and that we can trust in the power of God in all things. Jesus was crucified, but was also triumphant over death in his resurrection. In the cosmic sense of things, there is hope even in the bleakest of times. There is always cause for hope. What other ways can you offer words of hope to yourself and to others? How can you be an agent of hope? So there are the 5 elements of helping ourselves and each other in the midst of this traumatic pandemic. Foster a sense of safety, set aside time for calming, trust in the efficacy of what we do, encourage connectedness with one another, and in all things, hope. God's peace be with you in this turbulent time. We will be okay.